If I look at the next one, again, with this one, if I'm looking to see if I can do synthetic division, this one I can't because I've got that 3 out in front of the t value. Okay, so this one I'm going to do long division. So I'm going to go ahead and do 3t. Let me write it just a little bit lower. Just a little lower, Mr. Jansen. 3t plus 1. I'm going to divide that into the, let's see, the 6t to the third plus 5t squared minus 2t plus 1. And I'm not missing any terms, so I don't have to plug in any zeros. I look at the first terms of each, the 3t and the 6t to the third power, and I say, what do I have to multiply the 3t by to get the 6t to the third? And it looks like I'm going to have to multiply by a 2t squared. So now I have to distribute when I multiply. 2t squared times the 3t is a 6t to the third. 2t squared times the 1 is going to give me a plus 2t squared. And now I'm subtracting, which is the same as adding the opposite. So that's going to give me a 0 for the first term. The second terms it's going to add together to give me a 3t squared. I bring down the minus 2t. I bring down the plus 1. Now 3t times what will give me a 3t squared? Well, that's going to be a t. T times 3t is a 3t squared. T times a 1 is going to give me a plus t. And now I'm subtracting, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So now I add straight down. So that's going to leave me with a negative 3t. The plus 1 tags along. And now from here, I look at the 3t and the negative 3t. To get a negative 3t, I have to multiply by a negative 1. So I put a negative 1 up here. I multiply. It's going to be a negative 3t and a minus 1. I'm subtracting, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So when I do that, it's going to leave me with a 2 here. And since I can't turn a 3t into a 2, that's my remainder. So I put a plus 2 over the 3t plus 1. And that is my answer. Okay? Number 7. Oh boy. Number 7. If I'm looking, I'm divided by an x minus 2. And for this one, I can use synthetic division because it's a binomial of the first degree with a leading coefficient of 1. And this gets you excited because synthetic division is so easy. I take the opposite of what's written there. So that was a minus 2. So I put a positive 2 in my box. And I'll write down the coefficients. Got the 2, the 3, and the negative 14. And notice I'm not missing any terms, so I don't have to put any zeros in to save some seats for my friends, okay? Friendly polynomial terms. So now I bring down the 2. I multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. And now I add straight down. 3 plus 4 is a 7. Now I multiply. 2 times 7 is 14. I add straight down. That gives me a 0. Since the original problem started with an x squared, my solution is going to be one less. It's going to start with an x to the first. So it's a 2x plus 7. And then this is my remainder, which there is none. So my answer is just 2x plus 7. It divided evenly. Okay? So again, 2x plus 7. Hooray! All right, if I take a look at the next one. Again, remember the negative exponent means whatever I have here gets sent to the denominator. All right, so that's going to be over 2y plus 3. So really what this problem is saying is 6y squared minus 5y minus 15 divided by 2y plus 3. And now I have to use long division because of that 2 that's out front. So I've got 6y squared minus 5y minus 15. 2y times what will give me the 6y squared? Well, that's going to be a 3y. So now I multiply. 3y times the 2y is a 6y squared. 3y times 3 is a plus 9y. And now I'm subtracting, which is, remember, the same as adding the opposite. So let's see, that's going to leave me with a negative 14y. And then the minus 15 tags along for the ride. What do I multiply the 2y by in order to get a negative 14y? Well, I have to multiply it by a negative 7. So I multiply, that's going to be a negative 14y minus 21. And now I'm going to subtract, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So let's see, when I add these together, that's going to give me a positive 6. And it looks like that's going to be my remainder. So I put a plus 6 over 2y plus 3. And that is my answer. 2 more examples. If I look at the next one we can use synthetic division for because it's a binomial of the first degree with leading coefficient of 1. Since that's a plus 3, I'm going to put a negative 3 in my box. I always use the opposite. And now I write down the coefficients. So I've got a 3, a 7, a negative 4, and a 3. And I'm not missing any terms, so I don't have to put any zeros in. So now I bring down the first coefficient, which is the 3. I multiply. Negative 3 times 3 is a negative 9. I add straight down, which gives me a negative 2. Negative 3 times negative 2 is a positive 6. And then I add straight down, and that gives me a 2. And now I do negative 3 times 2, which is a negative 6. I add straight down, which is a negative 3. So now this gives me my coefficients. The original problem started with a y to the third, a w to the third. So this one's going to start with a w to the second. So it's 3w squared minus 2w plus 2. And then this is plus a negative 3 over the w plus 3. Okay? And that's all there is to it. Oh, it's just too easy sometimes, Mr. Jansen. Let's take a look at the last one. The last one here, I can't use synthetic division for. Oh no, my good buddy synthetic division. So I've got 2p minus 3. And that's going to be divided into 4p to the fourth. And notice here I'm going to do a plus 0p to the third because there was no p to the third value. So I've got to hold its spot. I'm saving a seat for my friend. Be a good friend. Save a spot. Plus 14p minus 3. Okay? So now, what times 2p will give me a 4p to the fourth? A 2p to the third. So now I multiply. So that's going to give me a 4p to the third minus 6p to the third. Oh boy, to the fourth here, sorry. Oh boy, let's go to the fourth. And now I'm subtracting, which is the same as adding the opposite. So that's going to give me a 6p to the third. The 17p squared drops down. The plus 14p drops down, and the minus 3 drops down. So now 2p times what will give me a 6p to the third? A positive 3p squared. So now I multiply. That's going to be 6p to the third minus 9p squared. The plus, well, I won't do that just yet. Oh boy, where's my eraser? There we go. There we go. So now I'm subtracting, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So I add straight down. That's going to give me a negative 8p squared. The plus 14p drops down. The minus 3 drops down. And now what do I have to multiply the 2p by in order to get a negative 8p squared? It's going to be a negative 4p. So now I multiply. That's a negative 8p squared plus 12p. And now I'm subtracting, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So when I do that, it's going to leave me with 2p and the minus 3. And now what do I have to multiply the 2p by in order to get the 2p? Well, a positive 1. So positive 1 times that is going to be a 2p minus 3. I'm subtracting, which remember is the same as adding the opposite. So when I add these two together, it leaves me with nothing. It leaves me with a 0, which means there is no remainder, which means my answer is right here. 2p to the third plus 3p squared minus 4p plus 1. All right? So synthetic division, long division, and that's all there is to it. Hope this was helpful, and good luck on your quiz tomorrow.